You guys all heard about Canadian experience, right? When you look for a job, the employers prefer those who have Canadian work experience.
Yeah.
Do you guys know that volunteer work can be considered as Canadian work experience as well?
No, not really.
Not really? You don't think so?
Maybe I think I don't have considered it as a really good factor.
Oh, you didn't think it was important? I see. Well, actually, I think not many, well, people talk about it, but it's kind of touchy sort of topic because a lot of Canadians employers, they don't want to talk about this, but actually in reality, they do. They do value those who have Canadian experience. Why? Because they feel like they don't have to worry about too much about behaviors, say your behaviors can be unpredictable. They want to know that you can work in a Canadian workplace. And that's the reality. Many employers prioritize candidates with local experience, which is true. This can be frustrating. It is frustrating, but there are ways to address this problem. First of all, volunteer work, like I mentioned, consider volunteering in your field where you can gain skills and experience required for you to get a job in the future. Valuable experience and networking opportunities. Transferable skills. Because you don't have Canadian experience, but you did work before in your country. Then you can highlight skills from previous roles. For example, teamwork and problem solving, these are universal. Like I mentioned, if you do volunteer work here, as well help Scott organize events that bring people together, then you build on your transferable skills by adding more skills to your resume. And networking, you are here networking, right? You know me, you know what kind of problems we can help you solve, and that's networking, and that can really lead to jobs. Actually, see, by showing up, the second gift you have is that just now, here is the Sudbury Chamber of Commerce, right? Just now, Michelle, who works at this place, just told me that they are actually looking for someone to help them out. It's a title, administrative assistant. Salary can be 40,000 to 50,000 annually. See, by showing up, you got lots of opportunities. That's gift too. Aren't you happy? Happy, right? So anyone who's interested,
Yeah, I'm so interested in it.
so interested in this,
Yeah.
right? Yes, you can always come to us because we have a lot of resources together. We also put resources together. We join forces together. We have a lot that we can offer to help you out. Networking. Okay, now let's move on to the next one.
So we've talked a lot about volunteering as a way of building up some job experience here in Canada. There is a difference though between doing legitimate volunteer work and letting yourself be exploited for free by an employer. And so let's talk about that difference a little bit. So in Canada, we have lots of nonprofit organizations and charitable organizations who do social good. They provide social benefits for organizations. Some of them have some staff that they employ, but many nonprofits and charities rely a lot on volunteers to help them do a lot of the work that they do, all right? So an organization such as Meals on Wheels, for example, which delivers meals to people who cannot cook for themselves in their homes. So they rely almost entirely on volunteer drivers, all right? So that is an excellent example of, could they use drivers? Yes, but then they wouldn't be able to put as many meals into homes as possible, right? Even if they had to use something like skip the dishes or something like that. So they need volunteers to do it. So you know they're legitimate because they are a nonprofit organization and they're doing a social good to deliver hot meals to people who need them, right? As opposed to somebody that's like, oh, you need some volunteer work? Why don't you deliver pizzas for my pizza place for free? And then, to tell people that you're really great and dependable and all of these things. Well, this person is getting a benefit, a financial benefit out of what you're doing. They're a private company, right? It's a red flag that they want you to do something that they could be legitimately paying somebody to do,
Yeah.
and that they really are paying other people to do, right? So those are the kinds of flags, right? If it's not a nonprofit or a charity, it may not be legitimate volunteer work. You might be being asked to do work that you could be being paid for, all right? If you're a student, you might be put in a co-op placement. So there you might be volunteering, you're essentially there, but the benefit that you're getting is the work experience and the completion of your school program, right? So in that case, it's a legitimate volunteer placement with a private organization, but they shouldn't keep asking you to work for them for free afterwards. Either they should pay you, or you go find work elsewhere, or take those skills and volunteer, provide it with an organization that really does rely on volunteer labor. Any questions about that kind of a thing? And if you're curious whether or not a company is really a nonprofit or not a nonprofit, you can look them up online. You can look them up just on their webpage. It should say whether or not that they are doing things as a nonprofit or a charity. And if they do, they'll have a big button on there that says, want to volunteer with us? Here's how, right? And then that is a big sign that it's legitimate. You can also give us a call with these kinds of questions and we can help you out. Next slide.
Overcoming challenges, language barriers. The reality, strong language skills are crucial for effective workplace communication. Do you guys experience language barriers here, navigating through your life in Canada to experience language barriers?
Sometimes, especially with the bank.
With the bank?
Yeah.
I always have a hard time with the bank. I do.
Sometimes when the locals speak very fast, it takes time for us to understand what they are saying.
Yes, okay. We have language barriers here, of course, but there are ways to address this. Consider taking courses to improve your English and French skills. For example, English Ally offers really good programs, very cheap, cost effective, and I can help you sign up for it. I know that program pretty well. And also, we encourage you to take advantage of free local resources. For example, Greater Sudbury Public Library offers Thursday night English conversation practice sessions at the main branch. Do you guys know where the main branch is? You do. It's a really good place to go to, especially practicing English right there. So yeah, you guys can go there and do that. And also make it a habit to read, write, speak in English or French every day. I think that's well known. It's just not many people can stick to it. Industry vocabulary. This is important. Learn job-specific terms in your field. This shows initiative, yes, and preparation, yes, to potential employers, yes, but I want to stress the fact that you need to figure out what the job title you're looking for here in Canada. The title could be very different than the title you have in your own home country. Very different. Where can you confirm this? You can go to our government website where they have not code. You go there and check, and a lot of times you're not sure of the title. You look at the responsibilities to see whether you do a lot of responsibilities right there and to confirm your title. Because if you put your title on the resume right here, that's different from the Canadian way of calling it, then you'll be filtered out. They don't know what this is about. So that is important. Industry, job-specific terms.
When it comes to language, however, we need to make sure that you're not being discriminated against in the workplace. All right. So the Ontario Human Rights Code protects people on 17 protected grounds, which include race, ethnicity, country of origin, ancestry. So language isn't specifically mentioned in any single one of those, but it's included in all of those, all right? And maybe you need a language proficiency to be able to do a particular job. It could be the job does have a legitimate requirement for a language proficiency, but it has to be what we call a bona fide requirement, which is Latin for a real and true requirement, okay? So just because you might have an accent doesn't mean that you're not proficient in a language, right? I speak French with proficiency, but I speak it with an English accent, right? I don't speak with a French-Canadian accent or a Quebecois accent, and I certainly don't speak with an international French accent. I speak with my Anglophone accent in the French language. It doesn't make me not proficient, but it makes me sound like I'm speaking a different language when I speak in French, because I am, right? But it's not really a problem to understanding me. Likewise, your accent shouldn't be a problem for sales in and of itself, right? Just because you have an accent doesn't mean, oh, nobody will want to buy a car from you. The reality is it might actually make more people want to buy a car from you. Maybe people from your country would be more happy to buy a car from you or a phone or whatever it is that you're selling because they recognize, oh, this is going to be so much easier. I won't have to try and manage the language barrier, right? So an employer can say that they have a language proficiency for a job position, but that needs to be tied to something that's measurable, all right? Just like the different language proficiency codes that might be attached to your ability to get a particular kind of status to come and work here in Canada, that employer should definitely have that then as part of their posted requirements for the job, that you need to be able to have this language proficiency that's at this recognizable layer, right? So if they just say, oh, we don't think you're going to speak well enough, that could be a red flag for somebody that's discriminating against you on the basis of your accent, your country of origin, all right? And the reality is that this will have there's an implicit bias, right? There's an implicit bias. I'm getting old, my hearing's getting bad. I sometimes find it harder to understand people if they speak too fast, if they have any kind of an accent, whether it be an accent from another country or an accent from this country, like a thick Newfoundland accent. Any of those things can make it harder for me to understand that person. Just like somebody here said, yes, if somebody speaks too fast, which I often do, if I'm speaking too fast, tell me to slow down, it can become a problem, right? So that bias is there and it can affect you in the job process. But if they're very explicit about it, and I'm not hiring you because of the way you speak, they've actually broken the law. All right, it's against the law to discriminate against somebody on that basis. All right, so if you feel like you're being discriminated against, that your employer is very much, or your potential employer is very much telling you, well, if I do hire you, I'm going to have to pay you less because of your accent, or I can't hire you because of the way you speak. They've broken the law, and you can file a complaint either internally with your employer if you're already hired, or with the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal. And we can help you understand how to do that. And this will not affect your status in Canada. All right, many people worry, if I file a complaint with the Ministry of Labour or with the Ontario Human Rights Commission, or even using the tip line with IRCC because my employer in a closed work permit is treating me poorly, this will not affect your immigration status. All right, it's completely unrelated. You have a right in Canada to be treated fairly and equally, and the law does not hold that against you when it comes to your immigration status. They're completely separate. So if you feel that you're experiencing discrimination, then come and talk with me or talk with the Human Rights Legal Support Center or any other online resource that you might find that can help in this regard. And again, all our services are free and confidential. Are there any questions about that? And another interesting red flag, there's a case, I don't remember the name of it right now, but many people who come from other countries, you have all sorts of recognized credentials in your country, which may not be recognized here. And it may take you some time to get those recognized. And you may hear, oh, I think you're overqualified for this position, right? Because they're looking at your experience, you're like, oh, well, you're gonna be overqualified, but I can't hire you at that position, the position that you might be qualified for, because you don't have the certification that you need here. That may in fact be against the law. If they turn you down for a lower paid position in the company because you're overqualified, but they won't hire you without the credentials, there is actually a human rights case that says that is in fact against the human rights to not consider somebody because for the reason of being overqualified if you're a newcomer to Canada, because that is in fact a form of discrimination. I won't hire you at the level that you should be hired at, but I won't give you a job at a lower level because you're too qualified. It's kind of discrimination.
It is.
Right?
Not kind.
Yeah.
It is, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, so another interesting wrinkle in those things. These things can be hard to prove and they can be, but if you really think you're being discriminated against, or if you've got a concrete example of it, get in touch. Let's take some action. There we go. Oh, was that 2? I think I went 2 there. Oh no, now I've done this.
Okay, Galassi, please help. But basically, I think to sum it up, what Scott was saying was if you guys experience any of that, talk to Scott. He's gonna give them a hard time.
Too far back.
Too far back?
Yeah, we gotta go
This
back.
one?
Yeah.
This one.
Next
Yes,
slide.
next
Oh yeah,
slide.
yeah, so next slide, and we're back on track. Ooh, thank you, Glassy.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Overcoming challenges. When it comes to overcoming challenges, there are too many challenges to overcome to begin with. Unfamiliarity with local job markets is one of them. Reality would be understanding the Canadian job market takes time. It does take time. But there are ways to speed up the process. We all don't have the whole, we don't have the time of the world, so we need to speed up. For research, first, one solution would be doing research. Explore industry trends. There's so many great resources online. For example, Job Bank Canada, Statistics Canada, industry-specific association website for sector-specific trends, and like a Glassdoor for company reviews and salary information. I remember when I wanted to learn how to file taxes here in Canada because my home country is not a thing. Employers do everything for you. You don't have to file taxes. That's why I wanted to understand it. So I wanted to go through training and get a job as tax preparer, just for the sake of learning it. I went to Glassdoor to see company reviews to see what other employees see about this company, to see whether it could be a good company to work for. Local events, attend career fairs and workshops. Like today is a great opportunity. You guys have learned a lot, right? So I think attend workshops will be really effective, and join our community for updates on these funds. There are organizations here in Sudbury where they host job fairs. For example, Spark Employment Services and YMCA Employment Services. They hold job fairs. They encourage everyone to go there once they do. Just get an understanding of the local market would be a good start. Accessing these services, well, some services are free. Some services require you to be a permanent resident or you have a work permit. It's different. There are potential barriers like for transportation and technology. Technology, I encourage you guys to go to public libraries. They offer free computer and internet access. Really good place to go. And when it comes to attend career fairs and workshops, join community for updates, and I encourage you guys to follow Sudbury Work Center and HY Voyagers because I'm a big follower of Sudbury Work Center because they share a lot of local events. I mean, I follow them. I'm like, okay, I want to go there. I want to do that. They're great resources right there. And encourage you guys to go there for networking at least, and also have a bit of fun. That's important as well. Informational interviews, connect with the professionals on LinkedIn. If you have a really good profile, reach out to them, build up connections there, learn about job market nuances.
And just going back to networking, I meant to talk about it way back when. For those of you who are international students, going to school, the information you're getting in class is, you might think it's the most important thing that you're getting, but it's actually of equal importance to the networking that you're potentially doing at school, right? So your teachers are potential sources of jobs and future references
Yes.
and other things.
Absolutely.
And all of your fellow students are the other people that you will be working with potentially in the future, right? So it's not just the content you're getting in class that matters. When we're talking about networking and doing all these things, it's also taking advantage of the network that is embedded in your school there as well.
Absolutely. I can agree with more. Yes, crafting an effective resume. Here's a brief understanding of how to create a resume that aligns with Canadian expectations and increases their chances for landing a job. We all have a resume, right? Do you think that's Canadian style resume? Are you confident?
No.
Not sure. You know you have a resume, but we don't know whether it's a Canadian style or not. Do you know how many like mainstream types of Canadian resumes here? Do you know that? Like different types. If I ask you a question, what type of resume do you have? Can you answer me?
I have no idea.
Have no idea. Okay, then don't worry, because we're gonna have a future workshop on unlocking your dream job, mastering the art of Canadian resumes. You got, at least you get familiar with what kind of resumes are considered to be normal ones in Canada. For tailoring, when you first apply for jobs, do you tailor for jobs? Do you tailor your resume? Do you look at the requirements and pick out the keywords and tailor your resume to that particular job you're applying for, right? That's really good. You need to do that. It's a lot of work, isn't it? Because you want to apply for as many jobs as possible, and then for each one you're gonna do this. It's just too much work, right? We have ways to solve that. That was my problem for a job, like applying for jobs was too much because everyone. We can talk about that later, but not today. Okay, not today. Yes, and then ATS optimization. How many of you guys have heard about ATS? What is ATS? You have no idea what that is.
I know something about that because in my previous workplace in my country,
Yes.
like our human resources department used to screen the resume with ATS.
Yes. Great. ATS is actually a system. Many companies use ATS. That is applicant tracking systems. They use this system to screen out people, to filter out people that are not a good fit. So if you don't do a good job, come back to ATS. That means your resume might not be able to get to the hands of human resource managers or recruiters. How can you do that? How can you address this problem? For example, a lot of people have like beautiful resumes, like a blue color, red color, just beautiful, like have a sense of design. That is not a good idea. To go through this ATS system, you'll be filtered out. They might think it's kind of some codes or something that's not relevant to what kind of job you're applying for. You use simple formatting, very simple, and also you use relevant keywords from the job requirements to stand a better chances of getting through their system. Achievements. Do you guys talk about achievements on your resume? Like, what have you accomplished? Do you do that?
Yeah.
You do. Do you use metrics like 20%, 30%? How many numbers? This and that. Do you do that?
Not
Some
really,
some
not
nodding, some no. Okay, this is very important right here. That's one aspect of a Canadian resume. You gotta tell people by using metrics what you've done. You quantify your achievements where possible. I know there could be ones that is not possible, but you try your best. For example, you might say increase sales by 20%. That is more impactful than saying improved sales. They don't know how much. I remember I had this conversation with this recruiter. The recruiter said, you know what, a lot of Chinese people tend to list their responsibilities right there. and they don't have any metrics put in place. I mean, if I want to know what you did as some title, I go just Google. Everything's right there. I don't need you to tell me what kind of job responsibilities you did. I just know already. What I want to know is that how well you did. If you don't have metrics, it's like you have a transcript without grades on it. I know you've taken physics, I know you've taken math, I know you've taken English, but how well you did. If, for example, if I'm recruiting a math teacher, you give me, okay, you tell me you've done math before. Do you think I might think you're a good fit, not knowing how well you did on math? So yeah, metrics, extremely important. And Canadian style formatting. When it comes to this, like I mentioned, use a clean professional font and try to keep it to 1 to 2 pages maximum. No need to add photo or personal information like age, marital status, or religion. Just make it very simple, like black and white, a few lines. Try not to just divide them into 2 parts or 3 parts, or even with colors. Try not to do that. Otherwise, you can even go through this in the first place. Networking strategies. I think Scott can share a lot about this, but when it comes to local events, like I just mentioned, try to attend them as much as possible and follow Sudbury Work Center and follow us. We share great events locally. Yes, local events. And
personal relationships are important to people, and it makes the job hiring process seem very strange and foreign, which is why, as Sabrina said earlier, many people would prefer to just like, oh, I have a job I need to fill. Who do I know that could maybe already do that job, so I don't have to put myself in that strange process of like talking with a whole bunch of strangers to try and figure out who might be good for the job, right? Which is why going to these events, getting to know people, speaking with them on an ongoing basis, beginning to build up that relationship is really, really helpful. And it's not just about meeting that one person. So today I got an email from somebody who was like, oh, I'm looking for somebody that knows this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know anybody that could do this job for me? So they don't need to know them. They don't have anybody in their network. And they're like, well, I trust Scott. So if Scott knows somebody that can do this, I will take that person, right? So this is why you need to be attending all of these events, making those conversations, stepping outside of your comfort bubble to try and do all of that. And they don't have to always be long conversations. They don't have to be intense conversations, but you just need to sort of be there all the time so that people get to be more familiar with you, and then they will feel like giving you a chance.
Yes, absolutely. Have you guys attended informational interviews before? Informational interviews. Have you? You know what that is? Informational interviews? No, you don't. Sometimes companies conduct informational interviews just to let you know what kind of job posts, what kind of jobs they are posting to recruit people. And then they let you know some information about the company, what is required for the job. So it's important to attend informational interviews. You reach out to professionals. For example, you want to work for some bank, and you know somebody's working for that bank as a recruiter. You reach out to them to say, can you please share some information about this particular job that I'm very interested in, and ask for informational interviews.
And I would also say, sometimes on a job interview, it'll have the posting, and it'll also say, to apply, do this, or for more information. And they'll have like an email and a phone number. So reach out.
Yes.
Reach out and say, hey, I'm really interested in applying for this role. What are some of the things that maybe aren't listed in that job description that you might be wanting to know more about? Like, talk to somebody on the other end to, again, start that relationship even before your resume hits them.
Yes.
Right? And if you've done a little bit of research, so that you can even go in with a question or two and be like, oh, I see that you've got this point in here and this point in the job description. Are you looking for these industry trend kind of things, which I just Googled on your webpage, right? And then they're like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. oh, yes, please do send your resume
Yes.
into us, right? You just asked an intelligent question and showed that you know a little bit about something, but also asked me to provide you with some additional information about, yes, this is a candidate I might be more interested in, right? So when it says, call for more information, call for more information.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Like Nike, just do it. However, be prepared. Prepare thoughtful questions and be respectful of their time. That as well. Elevator pitch. Do you guys know what that is? What is elevator pitch? No? You don't know what that is?
Elevator pitch comes from the film industry, and it's the idea that you're at a film festival and you're a young, small writer or director, and you've got this great idea for a film, but you need somebody with a name to help you produce it, right? And you're all at this big hotel in Cannes or wherever else you are, and then you get into the elevator and you realize, oh my God, it's Sabrina Spielberg right there, right next to me. And you've got exactly the amount of time in that elevator ride to be like, here's who I am, here's the idea that I have, and this is why you should be interested in talking with me once I get out of this elevator.
Yes.
Right? And you're not trying to seal a deal in the elevator, but you're trying to say, here's who I am, this is why us working together might be interesting, to make them go, oh, I need to speak with that person more
Yes.
about whatever it is, right? So, yeah, your elevator pitch.
You don't have a lot of time, because when the person reaches the level, they want to get out, then they gotta go. So that's called elevator. You talk about this in an elevator with someone who is in the same room as you.
Yes, actually, I met something like this because I need to report to boss.
Yes.
The boss have no time,
Yes.
a lot of things. So I just met him in elevator.
Yes.
Yeah, from
Yes,
maybe
yes.
maybe 30 or 40
Seconds.
to ground. Yeah,
Oh,
and
okay.
report to him. Done.
That's what you did.
Just
Yes.
now, like this.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. But be ready always to promote yourself. Who you are, what you do, what great ideas you have. So elevator pitch. Craft a brief, compelling introduction about yourself. Practice it so you're ready for networking opportunities. Like when you attend local events, when you introduce yourself to whoever that you want to meet, you can always use your elevator pitch as well. Let people know you. A lot of times it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And a lot of times it's not about who you know, it's about who know you. Right?
Yep.
Now, there are quite some jobs to practice right here. First of all, let's go to hidden job market. And have you heard about hidden job market? What is hidden job market? Have you heard of it? What is that? No?
Has some internal maybe strategy. When a company is going to hire someone, they can ask their coworkers to reference.
Yes, that's hidden. That's hidden. What else?
Maybe,
Okay, hidden job market is like many positions are not advertised. I know this firsthand. Like when I was professional human resource manager, when there are some positions we wanted to fill, I wouldn't just put advertisement right there right away, because that means not only I have to pay money, also I need to screen so many people. There's too much work not knowing whether they can do the job or not. Normally, what we did in our company was to put an internal notice so that people know, okay, our company is actively recruiting for this role, that role. If any of you guys know anyone who can do this job, recommend them. And those if it's a successful hire, our company will pay our employees for a successful recommendation instead of putting out advertisement right there. So you really want to discover this hidden job market, and networking help you discover opportunities. For example, if you didn't come to today's event, you might not know this position because Michelle works here and we know each other. She trusts me, and I told them some of you guys are looking for a job, and then I trust you guys, and then now you know. So networking can absolutely get you a job. Actually, like 2 days ago, someone from Cambridge College asked me if I know of any company that is looking for administrative staff. This is just perfect for her. She just asked me for it. You never know who can help you with that. So network. LinkedIn, we cannot stress it enough. Use it to connect with recruiters. Do you know here in Canada, a lot of companies use recruiters to recruit people instead of recruiting internally, like using their own human resource managers to do the job? No. You know that? You don't?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Here in Canada, in China, it's like if companies are looking for like high-level positions, they normally work with recruiters.
Yeah.
But not, they call it job hunters. But here, like for different levels of jobs, the culture is like, they work with recruiters. Even for a clerk, they work with recruiters. So there are a lot of recruiters who are on LinkedIn all the time. They have their own little system in the back end, recruiting people. That's why you want to have a really good LinkedIn profile and keep your profile updated and engage regularly. Professional associations, like you are in IT, right? You just mentioned that, you're in IT.
Yeah, anything like
You're in IT, okay. Are you with any sort of IT professional association? No. I encourage you to do that. You know them and you understand what kind of job they do. You talk to them. That's really more effective than submitting resumes. Volunteer internships, we mentioned that many times. That can lead to permanent positions. And also employment agencies, like I mentioned that, here they work with recruiters, and also there are some companies like YMC Employment Services, Spark, and Employment Options here in Sudbury. Online job boards, job bank, we know that. Indeed.com, we all know that, right? And local resources, check local newspapers, community bulletin boards, company websites for job postings. I think we all know about that.
And things right here, like, the Chamber of Commerce here has on their webpage job listings, right?
Yes, even we advertise job right there for me as a member. There's a job portal for all the members here in Sudbury to post their jobs, their vacancies right there. So that's a great place to find jobs as well in Sudbury.
And not all employers use all of the different techniques, right? An employer will maybe use one or two of them, especially if they've discovered, Indeed, like you were saying, oh my God, I get so many resumes that aren't relevant. Oh, but when I posted it on the Chamber of Commerce, I got only relevant resumes. I'm never posting anywhere else again, right?
Exactly.
And so different employers will find a place that they like.
And effective.
Yeah, for them.
Yes.
And so that will be the only place that they necessarily post. So you can't rely on just being like, oh, it'll always be on Indeed, or it will always be on Job Bank Canada. It may not be. Like, I almost never use Job Bank Canada because the codes that they want me to use almost never line up easily with any of the job positions that I'm actually advertising for. And so it's like, well, I can't classify this on the job board, so I'm not going to advertise on the job board because what I'm doing doesn't fit their classifications, right? So, yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, job interview. Have you guys gone through interviews here in Canada already?
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you feel like it? It was good.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Okay. What kind of interview did you go through? One-on-one, panel, behavioral, or technical?
Panel.
Sorry?
Panel.
One-on-one?
Yeah.
Did it go well?
Yeah, it's gone well. I was selected for the second round, but
Good.
after that, maybe they find someone more.
Experience? I see. There are different types. One-on-one is the most common one, and then panel. I've never experienced panel myself, but I used to be interviewing people as one of those on the panel. I think that can be intimidating, right? A lot of people are right there, and you're the only one who is applying for the job. Behavioral. Focus on past experiences. because they want to predict what kind of behaviors you might have in the future. Technical for specialized roles. There are common interviews. Which kind of interview did you go for? Is it phone, person, or follow-up?
Basically, most of them are in person.
In person. But during COVID, no. During COVID, everything moved online, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there are common interview stages and potential interview components. Have you guys done a skill assessment task? You have, especially for some specific industries, you have to go through that. And also there can be written tests or questionnaires, presentations for some roles as well. Have you been asked a question like, tell me about a time when, right? You have. Yes, that's very common. What you expect employers to ask you questions like, tell me about a time when something happened, and questions about your resume experience. You all are familiar with your resumes, right? You know what you wrote right there. You be sure you know, okay? Because you're expected to answer questions about your resume, and also questions about your knowledge of the company and the role. Also, you need to demonstrate your capabilities during an interview. I think that's a given. You may be asked to complete tasks related to the job, for example, like writing samples, coding tests. For coding tests, have you done this? Coding tests?
Though I work in the IT industry, IT company, but I am a double design. It's like maybe a sub design, just like how to make the cell phone cool down very quickly.
Oh,
It's like a hardware engineer, not
no coding.
no coding.
No
but
coding.
They also asked me to how can you how to solve the problem, how to solve them in reality, how can you lower the cost without affecting the efficiency and the performances. I think that's really hard.
It was hard, wasn't it? Yeah, some specific questions, examples, and problem-solving exercises. I think that was that, asking you to solve a problem that overheated without costing too much. Yes, these access your skills and how you approach work. And that's as well. And cultural norms, punctuality. I know here in the West, especially here in Canada and also America, people tend to be punctual. But I know in some countries, people don't take this too seriously. I remember when I was traveling in the Middle East countries, they viewed it differently. You could wait for them for hours. They say 3 o'clock, you can expect to see them at 4, 5, even 6. And I was pretty mad about it, thinking they were being so disrespectful. We set a time, and why do you keep us waiting? And then later on, I took a course for global management. On the textbook, it is mentioned that people from Middle East do not really take being punctual seriously. I was like, oh, it's not about me, it's about the way they function. Okay, then yes. So it's interesting because you might view that as being disrespectful, but actually when they say 2, it might not be just 2. 3 could work. It's in that kind of range. So you want to be paying attention to that. But here in Canada, people respect time. I also remember in China when there were quite a couple of Americans visiting China. I was there helping out, and then they are not used to the cultural norms when it comes to business negotiations, because in China normally you kind of have dinner together, you just talk, you go to different entertainment places to have a bit of fun and do some sightseeing, and then let's get down to business. And those Americans had a hard time understanding, why do we have to go through all of this? We're here for business. Now it's time. Let's get down to business right now. They don't understand you need to build up this relationship or connection first with Chinese people. And people feel like, okay, you're trustworthy, and then let's do it. Let's talk about this. So yeah, there are quite cultures and norms. And we're here. We like to learn the norms here in North America. And maintain eye contact and offer a firm handshake. For maintaining eye contact, I have a very good example. I work with a recruiter, a Canadian one here, located in Toronto. And I asked them, okay, what are those things that you might find hard to convince you to recruit Chinese people? Let me know so I can let them know. And she said, well, there's some kind of behaviors that were not kind of normal here. And she also mentioned an example of a woman from Middle East countries. From what country I don't remember, but in that country's culture, you do not have eye contact. For example, I'm selling a bottle of water to Scott. I'm gonna look at Scott. I'm gonna have this eye contact with him. But the woman was applying for a sales job, but she couldn't make eye contact because that was not her culture to do that. And then she couldn't get the job because of that. So we need to adjust to the norms here in North America. Follow up, send a thank you email within 24 hours. Well, I was a lot of people know about this, but they just don't do it. They feel like it's a lot of work, but I think it's very effective. And you can send a thank you note and reiterate your interest in the position. You want to maintain in their mental screen. You want to do that. Each interview is an opportunity to learn and improve your skills, so take advantage of them. Practice common questions and be prepared to demonstrate your capabilities.
So we've talked a lot about, you have to adapt to Canadian culture through all of this, but we need to emphasize as well that culture is a really big word that encompasses a whole lot of different things at different levels, right? So we can talk about Canadian culture, but Canadian culture isn't the same all across Canada. There is, Newfoundland culture and East Coast culture, and the culture of Quebec is very different than the culture of Ontario. The prairies have a very different kind of culture, and BC has its own culture. The culture of the North has its own culture, right? So there's lots of different cultures all across Canada, and individual workplaces will also have different cultural expectations in the workplace, all right? So in the construction industry, for example, it has always been a very male-driven, male-dominated industry with a lot of testosterone and a lot of kind of like alpha behavior that's in there. So it's typically been a rougher kind of workplace where you would expect a whole lot more verbal abuse between people. That they wouldn't necessarily mean it in a bad way, but it would just be their way of talking with each other would be to be mean to each other, and punch each other hard on the shoulder as a joke and those kinds of things. Whereas in an office, none of that would be acceptable at all, right? And so, but different workplaces can have different workplace cultures. So you need to sort of also understand what's going to be like that in different things. But all that being said, there are certain practices that are expected in all Canadian workplaces. So we've talked a lot about punctuality. Something that you were talking about when you were going to the Middle East, it reminded me of when I went to China and I spent 10 beautiful days in China. And of course, we had to go shopping at different places and do things. And I was shocked that we would go into a store and there would be somebody that was eating their meal in the store and they wouldn't stop eating when we came in, right? But in Canada, like, sure, you might eat, but as soon as somebody came in, you'd be, oh, I'm putting my food away, to be like, oh, sorry, I'm here to just serve you. Yeah. But they'd just be like, oh yeah, look around, continuing to eat their noodles. And I was like, what is going on? Yeah. And even worse, we went into one of those big marketplaces, right, where there's just 1,000 stalls, and it was underground in between places. It was like amazing. It blew my mind. But you would see people sleeping on a desk at the place they were going. And then if the person wanted something, they would just come up and be like, oh yeah, and be ready. And for me, it was like, in Canada, like, you don't eat in front of customers, right? Like, that's just a cultural norm here. It's like, you eat on your breaks. Yeah. And if you are taking a meal at your break, but then somebody comes in, you stop eating while you deal with them. Like, you don't eat at the same time. That's a cultural norm. And likewise, you don't sleep at the office, right? It doesn't matter if you're finished your tasks and you're done. Like, you just don't do it in Canada. Like, that's a cultural norm here that was clearly not the same in China, because nobody thought twice about those behaviors. But for me, it was like, this is so weird. I'm clearly in a different country because
Yes,
of this,
clearly.
right? So these are some of the things that are there. And Canada's a bit weird in that we like teamwork and cooperation. We also like people to be self-starters and take initiative,
Yes.
right?
Proactive, yeah.
And I'll use, even though I'm not a huge hockey fan, I'm going to use hockey as our analogy. You're all familiar at this point with hockey, Canada's national sport, and some people would say Canada's national obsession, right? And hockey is a great example of this weirdness of we love the star player, right? Like we love it when there's a great player that does great stuff, whether that be a goalie that is just amazing or a lead that does all this stuff. But we also need them to be a team player, right? We need them to pass the puck, to do it to other people. They can't just be the only good player on the ice because then everybody will just pick on them and destroy them and it won't go anywhere. So they also have to be a great team player as well as a star. So we value those two things, which seem like they're opposite, but they're
Yeah.
really the same.
Find the right balance. I guess.
Yes, finding the balance between those. So that teamwork and that cooperation, it doesn't mean that you can't be really great at what you do in the job or even the best, but we need you to also be cooperating with the team, sharing the success, sharing those things with other people. Humor, Canadians love to think of themselves as funny people. We're funny looking for sure. Canadians like to think of themselves as being like a humorous, joyful, like, you know, we like to have a good camaraderie, but there are limits to the kind of jokes and humors that we have in the workplace. And again, it will depend a little bit on the workplace that you're in, but in general, any jokes that are about sex or language or race, these are not considered good jokes for the workplace, all right? And they can get you in trouble. And even if it's a kind of joke that you would tell friends, they're not considered necessarily appropriate in the workplace and they should be avoided. And all that being said, workplace culture should never include abuse, all right? So it is sadly not uncommon for a newcomer to Canada to have one of their workmates, one of their work colleagues, imitate their accent, right?
Yeah.
And then kind of say, oh, I'm just kidding, it's just joking, right? But if it makes you feel bad that they're doing that, that's a problem.
Right.
And it's also against the law, all right? So you don't have to put up with abuse. You don't have to put up with being, whether it be around your race, around your gender, around anything that might be a personal characteristic for you. Workplace abuse is not acceptable in Canada, all right? And it can't be like, oh, it's our culture here to yell at people, and we just want you to work your best, and that's why we say mean, horrible things, and that's just our culture in here. It's like, it's not the culture anywhere in Canada, right? Like that's against the law in Canada. So violence, abuse, derogatory comments, discrimination, all of these things are against the law in Canada, and you can't disguise it as this is our workplace culture, all right? It's not acceptable. So if you feel like you're being treated unfairly, poorly in the workplace, people are making fun of you but then saying, oh, I'm just joking, but you don't feel like it's joking, you're feeling bad about it, come talk to us. We can talk to you about what your options are to make it so that you're working in a safe and respectful environment.
Awesome. That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now let's move on to success story. I wouldn't call it success story, but I can share some experience with you guys to inspire you and show you how these strategies can work. I'd like to share a story with you. There are a couple of aspects I want to share with you. For example, first one with initial challenges. When you came here, what kind of challenges did you experience? What was the biggest challenge you ever faced after you landed here in Canada?
Communication.
Communication.
Yes, how to buy things, how to communicate with the bank, with the,
Thank you.
yeah, how to apply for rental
Apartments.
application.
Look for apartments, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That was the biggest challenge.
And also how to, drive here.
Drive. I can share that
This is
story.
important issue for me right now.
Okay.
Temporary. I am just overcoming it. I try to learn how to
English.
drive right now.
How to drive right now, I might be able to share some tips with you since I'm quite experienced in learning how to drive. Not a really good driver, but I'm really good at learning, so I can share some of that with you. Who else would like to share? What was the biggest challenge when you landed here in Canada?
For me, I think the cold weather.
Oh, in winter.
Yeah.
What
Because,
month did you come in Sudbury? What month?
I come from warm city, yeah,
Oh, okay.
in China, south countries, south of country.
City, okay.
Countries.
What month did you come in Sudbury? What month?
What month?
Jan-
Last the year September.
September. September wasn't too cold, but like you mean
Yeah,
in winter
yeah,
time?
I experienced winter. Yeah.
Winter. That was the biggest challenge. You're not used to it.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
I think the lifestyle has changed.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, because in China, I come from Shanghai, everything is very fast paced.
Oh yeah.
But here it's not. So everything have to wait days, even 3 weeks. Just sometimes drive me crazy. Yeah.
Not only delivery,
Yeah.
but also like work efficiency a lot of
Yeah, work
times.
efficiency. Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like sometimes they don't actually work.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel.
Even
Sometimes
phone
it's
calls.
very crazy.
Yeah. Even the service phone call, I have to wait 1.5 hours sometimes. Yeah.
And also like make an appointment. You have to make an
Yeah,
appointment for
everything
this, for
need
that,
appointments,
everything.
yeah.
Even for a haircut, you have to make an appointment. That's a
Yeah.
big culture shock to me as well. Like, you just go in whatever shop there is, then you just do it in a second. And here you have to make an appointment for everything you do.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, for me, I think the resources are the biggest challenge for me.
resources.
Resources like, where can we get those useful information? Like, where can we get connected with other people? And it's kind of because we're pretty new here, right? And so I know that we are starting to build all those kind of connection, but it takes time. And not only like looking for like apartment or house or anything like this, but also like if you really want to know some people who is really good at your industry or some related company, and you just you need to figure out how to get connected with those people, or where you can get all this useful information. Yeah, it's kind of a challenge to me. I really need those information.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I have this, I know the secrets, how to
Okay,
navigate
great.
through that.
Yeah.
What about you?
About me, like I face the same as him, like the weather.
Yeah, you're from like a tropical weather, right?
Yeah, because the lowest temperature I have ever faced in my life is like positive 10 Celsius.
Okay.
Positive 10. It's like, and the highest I ever faced is 39 or 40. So like, yeah, it's like hot in my country, like most of the time. And that's why like when I first got here, it's like a super cold for me.
You're super cold. But you survived it, right?
Yeah.
We're all good. Well, yes, we have all these initial challenges. I would like to share mine with you. When I just came here, I didn't have a place to stay because first time I applied for a study permit, I got denied. The government questioned my intention to come to Canada. They thought, I would need another master degree or something, so I gotta have some kind of other motives. So they didn't let me come, but I persisted. I applied for it again, tell them, okay, I'm there to study for real. And finally got my study permit. It was too late, and then I applied for, I didn't have time to actually book a ticket. And also find a place to stay. It was too late for me to book any accommodation on campus. So yeah, that was difficult. And then, like 2 or 3 days before I headed out, I flew in. I actually went to Airbnb. I just found a place and for temporary kind of stay. And then when I came here, I took taxi arranged by the university to come to my place. And then I didn't know any of those people, and I just checked in, and it was kind of scary because I didn't know anyone, and it was, didn't know where I was going when I was in a taxi, so that was difficult. And also, not being able to drive when I just came here was very challenging as well, because especially in winter, if you don't drive, things could be very difficult. I remember I had to take a suitcase with me to the supermarket and buy meat and vegetable and all my fruits. And there was one time I bought so much stuff, I couldn't fit everything in the case. So I bought some fruits and put them in plastic bags. When I was walking back home, it was winter, it snowed, it was slippery, and then I slipped, it was so slippery, and then I fell down and slid into a little valley where I had all my apples and oranges scattered everywhere in the snow. And I was like, oh my goodness, where are my apples? Where are my oranges? They're all scattered everywhere. And that was difficult. That was when I decided I gotta learn how to drive and get a license here. So transportation was difficult, but I just mentioned that I actually had 7 instructors here, and then when one gave up on me because they did, and then I got another one to give up on me, and then I got another one, and then it doesn't matter how they viewed my driving skills, I just persisted, and finally I got my driver's license. I get to drive easier. That's why I cannot stress enough about the persistence and resilience. When I came here, I didn't have time to adjust the time differences, because there were kind of 12 hours in Canada. The very next day I had to go to school, and it was Canadian time, and I slept halfway through because I was so sleepy. It was nighttime for me. It was so sleepy, and I couldn't understand professors. The professor was a French speaker, but he tried to speak English. When he tried to speak English, it was a little bit different than the English that I was used to. And I couldn't understand that, but I persisted and kept listening to it, and everything just worked out. My point right here is that challenges are temporary. As long as we persist and have the confidence to overcome all the challenges, everything will be okay. I'll also like to share one example about skill development. Like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know how to file tax here in Canada, and it's not a big thing in China, it's not even a thing. So I actually went through training, like intensive training at HY Blog. I wanted to learn how to do this and actually be a tax preparer. I can do this for people. And that summer, actually, quite a couple of people who signed up for this training. And I was the only person who persisted and actually got a job at HY Blog to help people do that, because it was so intensive. It was like 6 hours a day. People couldn't handle a lot of exams, this and that. It was just too much. My point is, if you make a decision, you better follow through. And as long as, with persistence and resilience, you get there. And now you have a new skill, like you know how it works, especially in the future if you want to run a business, you understand the tax knowledge, that's going to be very helpful for you. So my point right here is, please persist and keep going no matter what happens. Everything is temporary, we'll get there eventually. I think we've covered some of those already, like local events, we mentioned that. Sudbury Work Center, us, and Sudbury Local. Do you guys know Sudbury Multicultural and Folk Arts Association? They actually hold good events as well, like the local ones, like Canada Day celebration as well, and the Chamber of Commerce is right here. Cultural gatherings, Canada Day, Labor Day, the Moon Festival. I think the Moon Festival is coming. The Labor Day. When's the Labor Day?
September. It's the first Monday in September, so I think it's the 2nd this year.
You're gonna share this on your social media, right?
It will all be.
Just
Yeah, it will be on social media.
You can make things easy. Just follow him, and then you can just know all this kind of events. It's easier. Key industries in Sudbury. Sudbury has quite some unique opportunities in mining. You know that, right? Mining, healthcare, education, and technology. Research these sectors for potential openings. General research tips would include following local news. Do you guys read Sudbury.com? You do? Okay, that's a good source. And also joining relevant LinkedIn groups. I remember you just mentioned that you have a hard time connecting with professionals. Actually, joining groups would be a good way of doing that.
So again, let's just talk a little bit. So you want to get a job, and it can feel like everything is stacked up against you, but you do have some rights during the hiring process. And so I just want to talk about those quickly before we go forward. So there's two ways in which you're protected under by law in the hiring process. Number one is through what we've already talked a little bit about, which is the Human Rights Code of Ontario, which says that nobody should be treated differently on the basis of age, ancestry, color, race, citizenship, ethnic origin, and any of the other characteristics that are listed there on the sheet. And so none of these things are things that can be asked during a job interview process. All right, so it's not okay in Canada to ask somebody if they're married or not during the job process. And the idea behind that is that we're worried that somebody will say, oh, I only want to hire single people because if they're married, they might have like responsibilities towards, you know, their wife or their husband or their kids that will take them away from the job, right? And so we have these rules to make sure that people are not discriminated against in the workplace. So it is against the law to ask you questions specifically about your age, about your religion, about your family, whether or not you're married, any of those kinds of things, which doesn't mean that an employer can't ask questions that will really provide them with the answer that they're looking for, right? So rather than saying, are you married? Do you have kids? What I can ask is, hey, this job requires you to work on evenings and weekends. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be a problem for you? And now you have the opportunity to answer that question honestly or not, because maybe you are married, but your wife or your partner also works evenings or weekends. So you're also happy to be working evenings or weekends because you're not going to see them then anyway, right? And you have no kids or whatever it is, right? So it gives you an ability to actually answer the question that they really want to know without giving away any of your personal characteristics. We already talked a little bit about language proficiency and those things, so I don't want to go over that. And I also want to touch on this idea of, you sometimes hear people saying, oh, we'll get you to do a working interview, all right? Come on in to the restaurant. We'll get you to work a shift, and if you can manage to work the shift without any problems, we'll call that your interview, and then we'll hire you after that. Well, that's illegal. They're asking you to do work for free, and then if you are performed satisfactorily, they'll pay you after that, right? So you need to be paid to do work. Now, there does become a bit of a gray area, as we were talking about in the interview process. You may be asked to complete some tasks. So I was recently looking at a job with the government because I was curious. I wasn't sure I really wanted it, but it's like, oh, somebody said you should really apply for this. So I'm like, well, I guess I should then. And as part of that application process, they were like, here's this scenario. It was a legal position. Here's this scenario. Tell us all the laws that apply and then write, all of the various things that you would do. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of work. That took me an entire weekend to do all of this work for that. But I have great confidence that the case that they were looking at was entirely made up. It wasn't actually going to solve any problem for them. I wasn't going to give them any insight into anything. On the other hand, I had a friend who was asked to provide an engineer. They were like, give us some of these, here's an engineering problem. And it's like, but wait, this is a problem of exactly the same kind that you work on at your firm. Like, is this a problem you've already solved? Or are you asking me to solve a problem for you? And then maybe you'll hire me, maybe you won't, but you're going to take my work and actually use my work moving forward with this, right? So you need to be careful with those to be certain that you're being asked to do, yes, provide an example of your skill, but not actually do work for the company for which you should be paid.
But in such scenario, what should we do?
It's a great question. First thing, you should be upfront with your employer or the potential employer and say, hey, this looks like you might actually be getting me to solve a problem that you might actually have. Can we talk about that a little bit? Like, is this a real work issue, or is this something that you've already dealt with and you're looking for potential other solutions to it, right? Because maybe they've already got the solution. They're like, it took us a long time to figure this out. Are they also clever enough to figure it out? Or will they hit the kinds of problems we hit? And in which case, that's all right, because we experience those same problems. That's a logical thing to do. Like, that would be the logical problem to not solve it, right? So raise it with them, first of all, like, hey, I have some questions about this. And then, depending on how you feel about their answer, you can decide if you want to move forward or not. And sometimes, like, let's be realistic. Sometimes an employer is not going to be a good employer, right? Sometimes that they're not going to be a good employer. You've heard from other people, they expect you to work too many hours, that you won't get credit for your ideas. You already know going in it's not going to be a good employer, but you want to go there because maybe you need the money, right? Maybe because just having their name on your resume, if you're there for a year and then you leave, that's, I'm willing to work for somebody that's terrible for a year because this will get me jobs at the places I really want to work, right? So there might be all sorts of reasons that you choose to move forward with an employer that isn't good or is giving you lots of red flags. But you can also choose not to move forward. If you start to see too many red flags, you could choose to be like, yeah, I don't think this is the right place for me, and not go there, right? So there's no easy answer to your question about what do you do, but the first thing, engage in honest conversation with your employer and find out more. Yeah? Make sense?
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? So you don't have tons of rights, but you have rights during the employment process. And the other thing that I should mention is, if you have a disability that is going to require an accommodation, you are not required to disclose that during the interview process. Okay? You can wait till you have a job offer before you say, oh, by the way, I also have, a reading disability, and I'm going to need to use, text to type software for, reading and writing, or I need this other piece of software to do this thing, or whatever it is, right? So you don't need to disclose during the interview process. You can wait until after you're hired to disclose that you have a disability, because again, it would be discriminatory not to hire you if you had a disability, but the reality is that an employer might take that into consideration, right? And you would be hard pressed to say, well, they didn't give me the job because of my disability, right? So you don't have to disclose until after you're hired. And some people try to wait 3 months before they disclose. And the reason they try and wait 3 months before they disclose is that within the Employment Standards Act in Ontario, within the first 3 months of employment, both you and your employer can end that employment relationship without providing notice, and therefore pay in lieu of notice, right? So either you can just be like, you know what, this isn't working out. I know I'm supposed to give you 3 weeks notice, but it's within the first 3 months, so I'm just gonna leave right now. And likewise, your employer's like, we don't have to give you a reason. We don't think this is working out. So sometimes people try and wait 3 months before they make those accommodation requests to ensure that they're not going to sort of get shuffled out the door. But even if you make an accommodation request and you're terminated quite soon afterwards, you can still file a claim. And again, we can help you with all of that. So those are some of the protections that you have during the hiring process. Next slide. Here we are at the end.
Finally, conclusion. As we conclude our discussion on the culture of job seeking in Canada, we can reflect on the key insights we have explored today. We've covered the unique aspects of the Canadian job market, from resume crafting and LinkedIn optimization to networking strategies and cultural adaptation. Remember, understanding Canadian workplace culture is crucial to our success. That's why you're here. I get that. We've discussed the importance of tailoring approach to meet Canadian expectations, from the way you present your skills on paper to how you interact in professional settings. Well, the whole process might seem a bit different from what we're used to, but it's a skill we can master. We've explored the hidden job market, the value of informational interviews, the power of building a professional network. These are all integral parts of the Canadian job seeking culture. Your international experience and unique perspective are valuable assets. Remember that they're valuable. And then the key to present them in a way that resonates with Canadian employers. This means highlighting your adaptability, your willingness to learn, and your understanding of Canadian workplace norms. We covered all that. We also touched upon local opportunities here in Sudbury. Remember to follow us so you get all the great information. It's a journey of continuous learning, adaptation. Let's stay persistent, keep refining your approach, and do not hesitate to seek support when you need it from us. There we go.
We are here. We're resources that are available to you. So the Sudbury Worker Center, we are a free service. We're entirely confidential. If you have questions about your employer, about immigration issues that you're experiencing, you can come and you can ask them of us. We're not immigration experts, but we, there's a big connection between status and work sometimes. We're not going to talk to your employer. We're not going to talk to anybody else. It's free. It's confidential. So please come in and see us. And HY Voyagers are just awesome, and I send people to Sabrina and her team all the time.
Yes, we're awesome. There we go.
That's us. This is how to find us. We're on the internet. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. We have an Instagram account. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty dormant at the moment, so it's not the best way to get a hold of us through Instagram, but we do exist all of those places. You can reach us by phone or by email or whatever works for you.
And that is us. You can contact us by so many ways. You can scan those QR codes in our family. You can also follow us on Chinese social media. We're all over, like channels, Xiaohongshu, Douyin, Bilibili, all those channels. Also, Western social media, you can search HY Voyagers. That's our email and website. There's tons of information right there. If you're looking to have a career boost, be it resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn profiles, interview, job search, all those things, you can always find us. If you want to realize your Canadian dream by coming here to study, that's another one that we can help with. And if you want to actually get a PR at the end of your study, we do that as well. We offer immigration guidance and services. For language, if you want to improve your English and French, all those languages, by boosting your score in your immigration journey, we're there for you as well. If you want to have some, like your driver's license translated by certified translators, we got that covered. And you want to have a smooth landing, not like me, it was quite harsh. And for personal support, I'm here for you, and our team is here for you as well. We offer one-on-one mentoring, job application tailoring, and career planning.
Thank you, everyone. We hope this has been valuable and insightful for you. We wish you all the best as you move forward, trying to find a job and a life and a home here in Canada for however long you choose to stay, perhaps forever. It is important to remember that Canada is a home of newcomers. Unless you're of Indigenous ancestry here in Canada, we've all come here. So my great-great-grandparents came, father's side, my grandmother came on my mother's side. All of us brought our unique cultural perspectives to make up what is Canada, and that is a tradition that will continue on moving forward. So your skills and experience have a place here. you just need to keep persevering. So good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you guys go, let me ask one thing. What is your biggest takeaway? I need to know that. Otherwise, you're not leaving. What is your biggest takeaway? Everybody, what is your biggest takeaway?
Know the resource to how to get contact, volunteering work, and get to how to use some tactics to find some part-time jobs. I think.
Yes, that's your biggest takeaway. All right. You're good to go. What about you? What is your biggest takeaway?
I think to expand our network and also promote ourselves.
Promote yourself. Good. That's pretty good. You?
Yeah, for me, because I'm looking for a job, so I think that the hidden job market is very important.
You should work on that, right?
Yeah, I will work on that continuously.
Okay. Thank us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you? What is your biggest takeaway?
I think more about how to about the religion and culture, maybe something.
Good. You?
I have some general overview of how to prepare the resume and the job market in Canada.
Yes.
I'm looking forward for the upcoming
Yes.
seminars at the workshop and explaining things in further. Yeah, and also another good good thing I got today is that I heard the opportunities of the potential the volunteering work.
Yeah.
the job
Opportunities.
you
Yeah.
just mentioned. So
Sure,
I will
sure.
talk to you later. Yeah.
Yeah, talk to me. You can scan me. I can refer you to Scott. You can actually follow Scott right there and
Oh,
you can
okay.
talk to.
Good.
He has a lot of amazing events coming up. I really encourage everybody to come.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
You guys are good to go now. You're free.
It's a very great workshop.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
And keep your eyes out for the one we'll be doing in
Thank you very
August.
much. Thank you.
Bye for now, guys.
Yeah, so if you want to just send me an email, just send me an email to this one here. Either will do, but that one. And just say you want to volunteer, and we'll add you to the list, and we'll be. We're putting together an event that's going to. Yeah.
Because I don't
Nice
know.
to meet you. Hi.
I don't need a resume, though. Just say that you want to volunteer, and we'll just have a conversation.
My name is Jenny, so
其实挺多的，你说的工作是指工厂呀，还是说 IT 呀？
Okay.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
对的，因为我这方面想看有没有机会，因为我们在毕业之前先要试一下，或者说我有机会可以申请
你这样，你加上我微信，我回头再跟你这个情况，我跟你想想办法。我的